Astronauts to the moon.
Ignition sequence start. 3, 2, 1.
Houston, we have a problem.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue.
What you're seeing here is a mirage.
What's going on, everyone? It's Jaron from Jeranism. I'm back with another live video for you today. Happy Thursday. It's a first. I actually got started early, which is pretty shocking, and glad you're here to join me for this momentous occasion. Also with me is David Weiss. David, are you there?
I am. Hi, Jaron.
Awesome.
Looking forward to this.
Great. Yeah, this should be fun. Let me bring up the camera as we are all, gracing you with our appearance, the presence of our appearance today. It's very exciting. There we go. So, yeah, we have joining us, David, why don't you tell us about our special guest today?
All right, so Charlie Robinson wrote a book called The Octopus of Global Control. I was introduced to him on Veritas Radio with Mel Fabregas. You recently did, Jaron. And I recently heard his show, and he's talking about all the deceptions in the world. 2-hour show. Doesn't bring up flat Earth, right? Doesn't say anything positive or negative, just doesn't bring it up. And I'm like, I got to reach out to this guy. And I reached out to him like, hey, told him who I am, told him about the show, gave him my history, the whole thing. And he's like, yo, David, we talked last year, right? Because he was on Veritas 18 months ago. And I did the exact same thing. I was like, I got to talk to this guy. So total brain fart, Dave. And we started talking, and I figured he really hasn't looked into flat Earth. He said to me, I said, have you heard about it? And his answer was, he goes, if flat Earth was a real thing, it would be the biggest conspiracy in the world. He said that twice. And I'm like, I've got an idea. I go, let's do a live hangout, ask questions. And he's like, right on, let's do it. So here he is. I recommend anyone listen to Charlie's interview on Veritas Radio. It's on the first hour. I believe it's up on YouTube now. It should be on YouTube.
It is.
So Charlie, say hello.
Hi, thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, David, it's funny because you called me after the first time I did Veritas, and we talked for like 2 hours. And then about halfway through, you're like, just so you know, I mean, I'm kind of a flat earther. And I was like, okay, but it was the way you did it was really funny. It was like, listen, don't tell anyone, but just so you know where I'm coming from. And I was like, that's cool.
It's like, it's like telling an ethnic joke. You look over your shoulder.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. So this isn't going to be one of those discussions where it's like, I'm adamant about one side and you're adamant about the other side and we battle about it. I am already predisposed I understand that so much of what we believe and what we think we know is a lie. I already know that. So nobody needs to sell me on that. Nobody needs to sell me that NASA is a total fraud. Nobody needs to sell me that the government lies about everything. And so I'm already sort of halfway there, I guess, but there's just a lot I don't know. It's not that I'm against it necessarily. It's just that I don't have the education on everything to have an informed opinion one way or the other. So my default opinion on it is what has been told to us since we were kids. And the problem with that, as I realize, is that there's a lot of other things that we've been told as kids that becomes our default understanding of the way the world works that I know for a fact are straight up lies. So if this was another one of those lies, like I said, it would be the greatest conspiracy of all times, but it also wouldn't totally surprise me because of how this sort of thing works. And Jaron, I the first time I even looked into the topic was watching your videos. So I know who you guys, I know who you are. I know the work that you've been doing, and I really like it. I like the way you approach it. I like the way you deliver it. You're not a jerk about it. You're understanding, and you make really good logical points that are, frankly, kind of tough to debate. Tough right. to poke holes in. So this isn't going to be confrontational. This is going to be more of you guys educating me. And I have questions, like everybody does. And that's what we'll do.
This isn't a debate show. This is a Flat Earth 101, I call it.
Yeah.
And you're going to ask questions, and we're going to do our best to answer it. And I'll be surprised if you ask a question that we haven't heard 150 times.
I probably won't. One of the things though that when you and I were talking beforehand, this is the least scientific reason why the Earth could be flat, but it is one reason that had stuck in my head from the beginning, and that is the fact that the United Nations chose to use a flat Earth map for their flag, and that's dissected into 33 different sections laid out on top of it. And to me, like I said, it's not very scientific. It doesn't prove anything one way or the other. But I know who the United Nations is. Right. I know that they're totally, totally full of it, and that it would be right up their alley to do something as blatant and as sort of, inside jokey of making their flag a flat Earth, just to kind of secretly rub it in everybody's face.
So I have something. There was actually a video that came out today from a channel that I like a lot called Flat Earth Brazil Japan. What is it, Eddie? What is the name of the channel, Jaron?
Banjo.
Flat Earth Brazil Japan and whatever. He wrote the book about emergency landings that prove the Earth is not a ball. But one of the things that Globers will say is that the Flat Earth map is just a projection of the globe. And that's all it is. It's just a flat out projection of the globe. But he went, and I've been thinking this for a while, but he did the research. The guy that invented the map that's behind Jaron what year was it? Did he make that map? It was a couple of hundred years ago. It's when he lived. It's when he made the map. It's all documented. And the globe didn't show up until, what year was the globe? 1930? Something like that.
The globe was 1930.
Yeah. When did the globe come in?
I don't know. The oldest globe is 1492. I thought.
All right. Well, I'll
have to watch Banjo's
map
video.
Was made before the globe, so the globe is just a projection of the flat Earth map. It's a flat Earth wrapped around a globe.
Gotcha.
So there's the answer to that. But yeah, I'm with you. The UN map was like in your face. It's everywhere.
I mean, they could have done a picture of the map, like you had peeled off a globe and just done it, left to right, but they didn't. They did top down, which is a weird way to do that map anyway, right? If you're the United Nations and you're showing all the nations, you would normally just show it the way somebody would show like a rectangular version of the map, but to do top down, looking down on it was weird to me, and so that fits with the map over Jaron's shoulders.
Right. Charlie, I haven't read your book. I can't wait to read it. I did hear your interviews with Mel, and I love Mel. He does a great job.
I love Mel, too.
He's great, isn't he? He's the best. And I thought you did fantastic, and
thanks.
Brought up a lot of things that even I haven't heard of yet, so I've got to follow up on a couple things. One of the questions I have about the book, so it's basically Octopus of Global Control, right? And you talk about the 8 tentacles, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Each of those being a different kind of faction. Is one of those science or?
Yes.
Oh, it is. Okay. That was that's my question. So.
And that's another thing that sort of predisposes me to go down this path a little bit more than say like just the normal average person, is that I understand how science has been hijacked. I do know that the universities are dirty. I know that the way they sort of self-reinforce by issuing tenure to professors and then having everybody write each other's peer review papers, and this big circle jerk of people that are just sort of confirming what everyone else has already said. I understand that there's a tremendous amount of pressure for people that have a difference of opinion about that. They are basically forced out of the university. So the science has been corrupted. It's been, even if you go back hundreds, if not thousands of years, the scientists were put in, locked up if they, or stoned to death, or thrown into the river to see if they'll float, or all these things. You got to kind of get on. So science gets corrupted. I know that people say, "Well, you can't argue with the science."
Right.
Well, you can always argue with the science, because if you're a true scientist, you kind of welcome those arguments. If you've got a good solid position, then who cares if somebody's arguing with you, right? You should be able to defend your position and have that conversation. The problem I see is when people start to say the science is settled. That means that it's gone from science into religion.
Right, and that's what caught me, from the very beginning of this whole, research avenues was, why is it that there's some things we can't talk about? And one of those being flat Earth. Why is YouTube, not recommending flat Earth videos anymore? Why is it blocking videos? I told a story where I have a neighbor who I met for the first time, and he came over and we were hanging out in the garage kind of talking, and it got to the point where I was talking to him about conspiracies. He said, I'm into a lot of conspiracies. And I said, okay, well, what about flat Earth? Have you looked into that at all? And he said, I've heard about it. I think it's kind of crazy. And he said, don't tell me you're a flat earther. I said, I am. And he says, okay, give me your best shot. I'll give you 30 minutes to convince me. So I'm sitting there for probably 30 minutes going through everything with him, and nothing. He's really not budging. And then at the end, I told him, and to mention that YouTube is blocking flat Earth videos. And he said, they're what? I said, yeah, they're blocking flat Earth videos. And he says, that's the best information that you've given me in the last 30 minutes. So I spent 30 minutes going through all these details and all these things. And then the one thing that, I just use as kind of a passing comment is the thing that struck him the most. So
it's funny you say that, because I was going to say that to you guys, is that, YouTube, I understand there's a lot of things that they wanted to ban, but the banning of the flat Earth related videos to me was more of a validation of it than anything, because if it's so ridiculous, then why do you need to ban it, right? If it's just if it's so absurd, and I like I said, I'm not there yet, but like I'm open to all kinds of stuff. I know that I don't know it all. And I know that there are gatekeepers that have information, and I understand that there's reasons why they want to control the information. So I get all of this. The YouTube thing that just bothered me when they started banning it, I was like, well, that's just why would you not want people to see it, right? If it's so stupid.
Sean from SGT Report woke up the same way. He was trying to avoid it. Then he saw that they were censoring it, and that's when he dove in. And is really, really looking at it. Before we get into this, before the show, we were talking, and I asked you how your family takes this, and you said they all think you're crazy. Your kids, your wife, they think you're insane. Yes. So, Mark Sargent has a new book out, and one of the quotes in the book is, "Once you go to flat Earth, you can't go back. There's nothing to go back to." So this is just a forewarning that after this show, your relationship with your family might not get better.
Yeah. I mean, I look, at my core, I just want to know what the truth is.
There you go.
I don't care if it's my truth, your truth, some independent scientist. I just want to know what's real in this world. I want to figure it out. I don't know that I ever will, but that's my intention. And when I wrote my book, I put in there that this is the information I have to the best of my knowledge at this time. But I reserve the right to change my mind on things if I am presented with new evidence that contradicts something that I originally believed. I think we should all operate under that philosophy of like, if I get new information that's better than my old information, and it's true and it's accurate and it changes my mind on things, well, then I should allow my mind to change. I shouldn't be so married to that.
Here's the funny thing about flat Earth is we all think we have information about the globe, but we don't have any. Globers will say there's 1 million proofs of the globe and 0 of flat Earth. Well, the opposite is true. Everything they say, here's what they have. They have science, they have physics, they have math, just those words, not anything that go with them. They just have those words. There's absolutely nothing that supports the ball. Now, with that said, there's a lot of flat earthers out there that are like, I'm not saying the earth is flat because it could be something else, right? The only thing that we know for sure is it's not a spinning rock water ball rocket flying through an infinite vacuum, okay? We don't know any of that. So that's where a lot of us stand. Go ahead, Jaron.
I was just going to ask you, to start at a couple, base questions. Where do you stand on evolution? What's your thoughts there?
Interesting. Well, for one, I'm not religious, and I don't know how that plays into things, but I know there's a lot of people that are like, very religious, and this is, God created people and this and that. I don't know. I know that I've got big problems with Darwin and his, the family tree of Galton and Darwin and all these guys, that they had major ties to the establishment. They were like, secret society type people. And so I have questions about them as people or as scientists. So I'm not really sure. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I don't know what kicked this whole thing off. I think the idea of the Big Bang seems like it needs a lot more work. I think that the idea of things evolving sounds reasonable. Now, does that happen over hundreds of millions of years, or does that happen quick? I don't know. I don't know the answers, but I don't know if we're living in a simulation. That's been talked about recently. I got to be honest. I feel like the simulation model works a lot better for me than most of the other things. It just. But who knows? I'm still on this mission to try and figure out what makes the most sense, what feels right to me. But I don't drag religion in to back up my claims.
And neither do Dave or I. Dave or I are in the same boat. We don't use religion, as a place to start from. When somebody brings up the fact that the Bible certainly appears to be a flat Earth book and it talks about it being fixed and immobile, sure, we can read the words on the paper as well and say, yeah, that seems to be what the Bible says. Right. But we don't need that for evidence. But I do ask that question because I know a lot of people have come to the conclusion that they don't think evolution is, definitely what it's cracked up to be. And I agree with you that adaptation definitely happens. Do things evolve on a mass scale? Macroevolution. Will the apes of today ever develop air flight and submarines and things like that? No, I don't think even in 10 billion years, 20 billion years, I don't think anything's coming along to create what humans have created.
Getting a little lag.
Okay. Still? You all right?
Guys froze.
We're okay.
I'm good.
We'll just go on without you, Dave. As he looks lost over there. But I guess where I come from as far as evolution goes is I think that when you look at science and you can see that it's pushed so heavily in schools, you can't be a professor without, believing in evolution or at least teaching it. So I think that that's a big thing when people recognize that, there can be some subjects that you have to teach. I don't know if you've seen some of the recent tests that have gone on with dinosaur bones that they're able to find. Well, they're finding, soft tissue in some of these bones, which you can carbon date back to 10,000, 15,000 years at the most. But again, we're told that that's 67 million years old, these dinosaurs. So I just think it's interesting that when these paleontologists or these scientists come out with that information, they're immediately fired from their jobs. They're immediately let go, even if all they're doing is just reporting the facts. Hey, I found this dinosaur bone. Hey, I looked into it. I broke it apart. This is what I found. And when I tested it, it's carbon dating at this. There's a scientist or a group of 10 of them, I think, that sent multiple specimens to a dating lab, and the dates all came back 10 to 15,000 years. When it was reported, oh, by the way, everything we sent you was T-Rex bones, they were told, you're never allowed to send another thing here as long as you're, So it's just funny when you see things like that, and I think that tells me that there's a problem in science, that, it's like you said, if you can't question anymore, if you can't say, well, what if dinosaur bones aren't 67 million years old, if you're not allowed to ask about how they got the age of the Earth and these things, if you're not allowed to question some of these dating mechanisms, then I think we're talking about pseudoscience. I think, like you said, it's a religion, and that's what it's frightens me the most about so-called science.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff I'm not a paleontologist. How would I know?
Right.
So a lot of us, when they propose this, they say this is this many years old, or we're at the Hubble telescope and we're looking back 6 billion years, and we all just go, okay. If you say so, like, how would we know? How would we check their work? We're not. The majority of us are not scientists. We're not qualified to do that. Maybe they're not qualified either. But to talk about that and to see that and go, we're at a disadvantage because you don't know. There's no way for us to really check their work. Just the typical person that has sort of passing interest in it you just kind of have to nod and go, if you say so. Right. And then that becomes fact, right? So
right,
that can be dangerous.
How far stars are. Go ahead, Dave.
No, I was going to say, you said at the beginning, you just want the truth. You don't care what it is. You just want the truth. And that's where we come. People say, you want the earth to be flat. You want to be special. Well, when I started this, I believed in evolution. I believed that the Big Bang, that, fish climbed out of the water, found another fish that climbed out of the water, made a monkey. The monkey had found another monkey, and there comes Jaron. So that I believed all that, and anyone that mentioned God, the Bible, even if they were doing a great presentation, as soon as they mentioned that, I was gone. Then I discovered that the Earth is not a spinning ball, and it's an intelligently designed system, and that's when I froze, and everything changed for me. So again, we don't lead with religion, we don't lead with the Bible, but it backs up all of the science that we say. So. Go ahead. Do you have a list of questions I think you made, or?
Yeah, I do. They're not, and it's not like gotcha questions or anything like that. It's I want to know what you guys think about these things. So, the ice wall. Okay. Beyond, I've seen the maps that show beyond the ice wall, that there's more, and it looks like different land masses, and then sort of concentric circles that just kind of expand. What is that about? You've seen those maps, of course, right? So it's what we expect, like the ice wall, but then there's beyond that, there's even more. It look like islands and things like that. What the hell is going on with that?
Well, from what I can tell, that's like a 1,000-year-old map. I mean, again, I don't know if we can trust that, but it's shown up in a newspaper in the early 1900s, and supposedly some guy drew it, and it's about 1,000 years old or whatever. But you're talking about the one that shows different land masses and even has some of them have names. I don't know if you're talking about that. Yeah. Which is certainly interesting. I've pointed out the little exit area that it shows there, and I can't remember the
Summers Gate.
Summers Gate, right. Seems to match up really well with something from the Getty Museum that I've found. So again, we haven't been there, so it's hard to say. I haven't gone beyond the ice wall. I haven't gone to the ice wall. So I mean, it's hard for me to say whether or not that's true. I'm open to that idea. A lot of flat earthers are believers that there's a dome, that somehow you can go too far and actually touch that dome. For me, I think it's more likely that it's an ever expanding plane, that we just can't go that far. What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, so I hate the ice wall. I hate the term the ice wall because everybody thinks Game of Thrones. So when anyone asks me about it, I describe it as the world is just a big lake. Imagine a circular lake in Kansas, big giant, maybe 50 miles across, whatever. Circular lake. It's got a bunch of islands. The center is the North Pole. You can go around the North Pole clockwise, that's west. Counterclockwise, that's east. And any direction away from the center is south. And if you keep going south, away from the center, you're going to hit the shore of the lake. The shoreline of the world lake is Antarctica. What's beyond it? Well, you guys just went over a bunch of possibilities. We don't know, because all of the countries that are warring in this world that can't do anything all agree nobody can go search Antarctica.
Yeah, that's a weird one to me. And the fact
write this down. There's a video called Sorry, Antarctica is Closed. It's on Taboo Conspiracy 2, which is 2 I's, actually. II. It's a 30-minute video, and he did such extensive research into what it takes to explore Antarctica. Once you see that video, you'll be like, wow.
Cool. I'm into that.
So you can't go there because of physical issues, because of there's no food, there's no fuel, there's regulations. I mean, there's so many reasons you can't go there that you can't go there.
Yeah, I think it's one of the most eye-opening things, and it is to everyone. I mean, if you look at like Alex Jones has been talking about it recently, this whole Antarctica thing. I mean, that's where he's like, I want to go there. I want to see what's because we certainly are being blocked for some reason from going there. Which is certainly interesting. I mean, there's even rules that you can't go below 60 degrees south with extra fuel. Which that right there, I mean, obviously when you get down there, you're going to need extra fuel unless you're going directly to a location and turning around and coming back. So the fact that they don't allow you to carry extra fuel on your boat just tells you that you really can only go to a certain location right on the shore and come back, say to South America, or maybe you leave from Australia and go there and come back. Really, there's no even possibility of you circumnavigating it. Really, you would need extra fuel.
Jared,
Has anyone ever tried
that circumnavigation chart and put it on easily, or not really?
Say it again.
Can you easily pull up that the world record circumnavigation route?
Oh yeah, I've got that image.
Yeah.
So is that something that people have tried to do in the past? Is try and circumnavigate?
So billions of people have done it east to west and west to east.
Right.
West in a circle.
Yeah.
And by the way, that works the same on a globe. Let's imagine you live on a globe. You're 1 mile from the North Pole. You break out a compass. It's going to point towards the North Pole. Okay. Mm-hmm. So as I go this way, if I go in a straight line, my compass is no longer pointing towards the North Pole. My compass is going to turn. So a circle around the North. To keep my compass west. I got to do a circle, and in 3.14 miles later, because I'm a mile away, I'm back to where I started. I circumnavigated the North Pole. As you go out farther and farther, that curve becomes less and less. On a globe, when you hit the equator, that's the only time that you don't have to correct to the north. And as you go south of the equator on a globe, you now have to correct to the south. Okay? However, Mark Sargent interviewed some Navy ship captains and stuff that are in the Indian Ocean that are trying to dead reckon at 270 or 90 east and west. And they found that they always had to correct to the north, even in the southern waters. So they're always correcting to the north, lines up perfectly with a flat Earth.
Well, then to take that the next step, and that is the lack of airplane flights from Australia to South America. Is that right? Is that
Well, there didn't used to be a direct flight from Santiago, Chile to New Zealand or Australia. And the ones that they did come all the way up in the north, go over to like Dubai and then back down, which is crazy. Right. They should just go across or underneath.
Of course.
And there's all excuses. Oh, if you got lost, whatever, if there was engine problems, it'd be too expensive, or they're picking up other passengers, or it's too far. And Jaron and many of us have figured out how they get away with that. But that they make no sense on a ball. But and even delivery services take those routes. Like you're not connecting with a delivery service. Cargo planes. They're taking that same route. And if you look at it, it's a straight line on a flat Earth map.
Yeah, I've seen that before.
Santiago, Chile to Australia, straight line.
Right. Yeah, that to me has been something that it was very hard to, wrap my head around. I mean, it should theoretically, on a round ball, you should be going the shortcut. You should be going the easiest way. We're talking about airlines, right, that are interested in saving fuel and doing it as quickly as possible. And to say that there's nobody in South America that wants to go to Australia or vice versa is ridiculous, of course.
Because saving fuel, Jaron.
Right.
That's another rabbit hole of fuel and airplanes, but we're not going to go there in this show.
Okay, yeah, good. I need my head. I can't have it explode right now.
We'll take it slow for you. We'll take it very slow.
Okay, thank you.
But
did we answer Antarctica enough for you?
Yeah. And I find really strange, like we've all seen the Patriarch Kirill showing up there and John Kerry showing up there on the day of the election, which is weird. So there's a lot of nonsense going on in Antarctica. I think we can all agree on that, regardless of what anyone thinks about
Aaron,
the shape of the Earth.
Tell them about the different companies that go down there.
Well, yeah, I mean, when I did the research on that, it appears that all the websites that are available all owned by the same company. And, even looking further into that, I saw they only had like 5 employees, and one of the employees is the daughter-in-law of the head of the NOAA, who was, basically put there by Obama. So, I mean, there's a lot of questionable activities, and whether, the price is ridiculous. I don't know if you've ever looked at, even if you were just going to take a little trip by yourself on a ship down to Antarctica just to see the penguins, take some pictures, and come back, you're talking $25,000. And it gets more expensive from there if you want to go inland, if you want to go to one of the stations or something. It just gets outrageous. There's also a girl, I have a lot of problems with the whole idea of circumnavigation or crossing Antarctica. There was a girl recently who is a skier, and she skied to the South Pole and then skied back the direction she came and was picked up, and she has a blog and everything. And so I went to that blog and started emailing her, and I just asked, why didn't you go to the other side? For me, if I'm a skier and I can ski to the South Pole, I would just continue on so I can say I crossed Antarctica. She only went to the South Pole, turned around, and came back. And she said, the difference was $50,000. Like, well, what difference? She said, well, it would have cost me $50,000 more to have them pick me up on the other side. And I just couldn't even fathom, what are you talking about? How could it cost that much to be picked up on the other side? Now, of course, if you're a flat earther, you don't believe that you can go across Antarctica, that you're kind of skirting the edges, you're hitting the South Pole, coming back. I think what Dave's talking about as far as circumnavigation with airplanes is, and this is kind of what got me on flat Earth a long time ago. In 2015, there was a guy who broke the record for, he went north-south circumnavigation solo in a plane. And, it took him a long time and whatever, and he had his proposed path, and you could watch it online and see what he was actually doing. Well, his proposed path was to go from Brazil, cross the South Pole, get over to New Zealand, and then come back up the other side and go to the North Pole. Well, when he flew down there, he hit the South Pole, turned around, and came right back to Brazil. So he basically went Brazil to the South Pole, turned around, went back to Brazil, then from Brazil went over to New Zealand, Australia, and then up there. So I said, okay, well, he's not going to get the record because that's clearly not a circumnavigation. But no, they gave him the record. And that's when I said, well, hold on a second. Now we're giving people circumnavigation records when they didn't circumnavigate. They just went to the South Pole. It'd be the equivalent of us flying down to the South Pole from the United States, turning around and flying right back up. Well, that's not circumnavigating. You only went to the South Pole and came back. So I think that there's so much wrong with the ideas of circumnavigation and crossings, and of course you need tons of military backup. You need your government's okay. You need to complete a survey of what kind of damage you're going to do to the ecosystem down there, which costs.
Then you got to pay $100,000 fee that's non-refundable, and then they deny you.
Right,
it's
crazy.
insane.
So I don't know who's able to go down there. It's just you and I would not be able to go down there. That's for sure. I mean, it's going to take
Charlie,
a huge team.
The path, he went like from here to a point, and then turned around and came back and went up to the North Pole and back down. That's circumnavigation.
Right.
It's insane.
That's weird. Yeah, that's very hard to understand because you're right. Why would they charge so much unless that was one of the easiest barriers to throw up to somebody to make sure that they didn't test it out, right? Otherwise, you'd get rich guys just saying, "Hey, let's just figure this thing out."
Right. Possibly.
So this is maybe the main question. This is obviously a question you guys have gotten 100 times, but it's a logical question, and that is, what is the point?
Right. We hear this one all the time.
I'm sure you do,
motive?
And I understand what the point is of a lot of these lies and conspiracies and hidden truths and things like that. I not all of them, but I mean, I can understand a lot of them. Some of it is money related, some of it is power related, some of it is knowledge related and scientific.
And what is money? Money is a control system. Money's not real.
Yeah, money's.
So before
fake
we give you our opinions, because we're not them, but it's pretty darn clear to me, is I used an example. You're hanging out at a campfire and you watch a guy take a burning log and go burn down 5 houses, set 5 houses on fire. You got him on video. You've hit him with a laser pointer to see how far away he is. You've calculated it. You've seen it all. And then you go, yeah, but why would he do that? Therefore, he couldn't have done it. Therefore, it's not real. We don't know the motive, but it's absolutely clear. Jaron, you want to give him your opinion first?
No, I think that's great. I think motive, you have to look into it, the whys, but I think there's so much control that happens because of the globe, and really it comes down to whether or not there's more area out there. I think that's huge. If there's a book called The Iron Republic, I talked about it a million times, where it describes the other side of Antarctica. This boat gets lost over there, ends up finding a whole new continent that basically knows about the United States. They're much further along technologically wise than we are, and I could see that being a possibility. I could easily see there being other places we could go, other places we could live, and the countries as is want the control to stay there. And if we found out that we could go somewhere else, that there's more land, there's more opportunities, I think a lot of people might leave. If we found out that there was other places to go, people would go.
You're like me.
Yeah, go ahead, Dave. Dave would go.
No, good. When you're done. The other thing is, Jaron was on Veritas, not the last time, but last year. I think we were both on, actually. It was Jaron and
I listened to that.
So he talks about the book in section 3, in hour 3, which was a 5-hour section. Mel added a reading of the book if you ever want to listen to it.
Cool.
It's in there. So I agree with everything that Jaron said. But the other thing is if you can convince people that they're an insignificant speck and there's no creator, then they're different people. Then you live in a different world. Convincing people that there's not a God, and I rarely use that word, then you've got them under control. If you keep them scared, just like all the stuff that you talk about, people are panicking. They think there's not enough. They think they're a random speck. They think that their actions and their words don't have consequences. But once you discover that you are in an intelligently designed system and that you are in an important place and that you are an important soul in an amazing created system, then evil has no control over you.
Yeah. So do you think it's possible that our space program is actually not going to space, but going over there?
I'll go first, and Jaron, you can go. They go to outer space. I think of outer spaces as the outer spaces beyond the shoreline of Antarctica. That's outer space to me. There's different theories on what's out there. Just more land, different rings with different suns, different worlds. I don't know. We're not allowed to go there, so it's all speculation. But it's outer space. Now, the secret space program, there's so many people that are into that. I don't know anything about it. But there's crafts that people have seen. I believe in the secret propulsion program. And I believe that they have stuff with spinning gyros and electricity and free energy that can do stuff that we can't even fathom. And I believe they've had it long before us. I believe they had it in the previous civilizations before us. So where are they going? They're not going up and out. They're going out. Out is every direction away from the North Pole across the Earth plane. So extraterrestrials, and I've said this a million times, they come from the extraterrestrials. And to go to, if there are extraterrestrials out there, which I believe there are, it's just my belief, it's not through thousands and millions and hundreds of millions of miles through space. It's a day trip on a conventional airplane. If you're allowed to go there.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think, Charlie, about free energy? Do you think that that's being blocked?
Oh, 100%.
Right.
For sure it's being blocked. I'll tell you a quick story. This is it's a secondhand story. It's a guy I knew. This was either 95 or 96, a photographer that I met. And he was like, he looked like maybe a guy that would go to the Grateful Dead, right? He was like in his 60s, long, kind of grayish hair, cool guy. And I went in and he was doing some photographs for me. And so I went in to his studio and we were doing the pictures and then we were just chit-chatting. And he said, I got this crazy call from a guy who was like an Air Force colonel asking if I was available to come to shoot some photos for him at an airbase. And I said, yes, of course. And the pay was great. And I'm going to go next week. And I said, well, which airbase is it? He goes, it's actually Area 51. Have you heard of it? And I was like, yeah, of course I've heard of it. But I didn't really know the ins and outs of it. He goes, yeah, so I go, well, let me ask you this. Why are they, like, no offense, you're a great photographer, but, like, they don't have photographers there? He's like, I know, I'm thinking the same thing, right? But whatever, I'm going to go because they pay well, and shoot, I'll tell you, I'll let you know how it goes. I was like, cool. 2 weeks later, I called back to see if the pictures were ready, and he said, yeah, they're ready. Why don't you come on by and we'll get it? I said, all right, great, I'll be there this afternoon. And I said, oh, wait. But by the way, how'd that thing go with the Air Force? He goes, I can't talk about it. Click, and hung up on me. And I was like, all right, that's kind of weird. So I went in and met with him. And first, actually, when I got there, I saw his wife first, and I go, "What's up with him? He's acting all crazy." Like, she goes, "He's all freaked out. When he came back from this place, he's all freaked out. He's thinking that his phone lines are tapped." I go, "Well, yeah, well, they probably are." And she goes, "But he's legitimately not himself." And I was like, "Oh, this is really interesting, right?" So he gives me the pictures. I said, "Well, that's nice. Tell me about what happened." He goes, "Well, we can't talk here." So we go outside of his building and like kind of down by the trash cans. And he said, "I saw something there that it was crazy. I cannot explain it." I'm like, "Well, you got to tell me." And he said, "Well, he was with a guard the whole time, had a camera with film in it." So this is 95 or 96. So you're talking about traditional film. He would shoot pictures of these things, and then he'd have to hand the camera to the guard next to him, who would open it up, take the film out, reload it with a new roll of film, hand it back to him. So he said, "I never had control of the film. It was always theirs." But he said, "We went to this hangar, which was the biggest hangar I've ever seen in my life. And they had everything opened up, and they pushed this thing out that was on sort of wheels." And he goes, "Have you ever been to the carnival and seen those gyroscopes that are like 3 circles that, one spins and then the other spins this way and then the other one spins this way?" And I said, yeah, I know what you're talking about. You kind of get in it and it'll spin you around. He says, "Well, they've got this thing." And he says, "It's about the size of a Volkswagen Bug. And they take it out there, they push it out into the open spot, so it's not in the hangar, it's outside of the hangar on the tarmac. And they've got another guy who's got like a scissor lift, and from that scissor lift, he's got the controllers, and he's controlling this thing. They switch it on, and the gyroscope thing starts going faster and faster and faster and faster. And then they released a little arm mechanism that was holding this thing. And he described it as being like sort of circular, about the size of a Volkswagen Bug. He goes, "I don't know, they just called it the Acorn. And that didn't mean anything to me at the time." And he said it just started spinning faster and faster. He goes, "It didn't make a sound." He said, "I was real close to it, and it didn't make a sound. And it lifted up. It went up into the sky. We were all watching it. You could tell it was spinning faster, but you couldn't hear anything. And then all of a sudden, it just vanished." And he goes, and then like miles away, the guy said, "See it over there?" And he said, "I could see it way over there." And and I'll never forget, he goes, "And that was at that point, I thought that they might not let me walk out of there." And I was like, "Oh my God, this is crazy." So then later, years later, I looked into it and discovered that when the Nazis built the Der Glocken, the bell, the Nazi bell, the nickname for it was the Acorn. And really? I think that what he saw there was this technology, this crazy technology that he was supposed to photograph, and he saw it. And so, but he and I both, had questions about why not like the soldier there? Why wasn't he shooting the pictures? He's like, "I don't know. I don't know why they
wanted a story that couldn't be confirmed to be let out to fuel the interest."
And I thought about that, but then I also thought, well, at this time I was fresh out of college. I wasn't writing any books. I didn't have any sort of influence or know anything about anything. And neither did this guy. This guy is just a guy in LA who happens to be a photographer, and he's just got a cool story out of it. So, people can discount that or say that it's nonsense or whatever, and that's fine. It's not. I didn't see it with my own eyes, but I did trust the guy, and the guy told me this sort of, unusual story about technology that allegedly doesn't exist, but he saw it with his own eyes, and he was very convinced, and he was very freaked out.
Have you heard of the looking glass technology?
Yes, I have.
So they knew that you were going to be on this show in 2019, right? And that you were going to tell this story.
I think that's probably the Air Force. They're very smart. They're very smart, man. They take a long-term approach to these sort of conspiracies. They did their research for sure.
Well, I think when you look at flat Earth, or at least from a flat Earth perspective, when you're talking about free energy, it just seems to make so much sense to me that they can never let that out, because if we did have free energy to where you could just get into a plane and fly south, who knows where we'd end up? If you could get in a boat and just travel around Antarctica and try and do some of the things that Captain Cook did, or these guys back in the 1800s or late 1700s. I just think that it tells us so much about what's going on in the South, that they really are blocking Antarctica for some reason. And I know, not to go back on what we were talking about, but really the ice wall, I think, is an easy way for people just to dismiss it. But if you do some searches, what they're talking about a wall is really that shelf. There's like an ice shelf that seems to keep the water in, and that makes a lot more sense to some people than a floating ball of water in outer space that's spinning around and flying around and gravity.
Makes a hell of a lot more sense.
Yeah.
The Antarctica is the highest land on Earth, which makes sense if it's containing all of the water. So I did a talk with Sophia Smallstorm called "The Outward Flow of Civilizations," and I speculated that all of the Amazon and the Incas and all of these civilizations that just picked up and left, that they went outwards, that maybe there was a shift in climate, and if all of North America stayed frozen through July and August, everybody would go outward south,
right?
And they'd live down there, and the snow could march everyone out. They're always staying on the outside of that.
Yeah.
And then the people that are left in the middle over generations wouldn't even know they existed. Different worlds separated by, a desert plain like Antarctica. Perhaps there's all the advanced civilization is out there.
And then you have us stuck by, being controlled by this octopus of global control, really keeping this group of people subjected to their leadership or their if you want to call it tyranny or whatever. We're all subjected to it because we think there's nowhere else to go.
Yeah, and Graham Hancock in Fingerprints of the Gods writes about the Piri-Reis map of 1505 that shows Antarctica. This guy drew an accurate map of Antarctica with no ice.
No sense, right?
How would he know, right? Unless it wasn't filled with ice at that time or at a time earlier. Apparently, it was a composite of hundreds of maps that were falling apart, and he put it together and built this map. But whatever, the map that he put out is what it apparently Antarctica would look like if you removed all of the ice. Or it was a very accurate description from we're talking 500 plus years ago. I mean, it's interesting that guy would have it so spot on. So just something to consider,
Do you follow Michael Tellinger at all?
I do.
So yeah, he's on a roll right now, just discovering what he used to call rocks and now he's calling giant bones. And he just put out a video today. He thinks he found a heart that is 80 feet tall. It's crazy. Great. So when you said to me, flat Earth has to be the biggest conspiracy, I said it's ranking because it could be bigger.
Could be giants.
What the flat Earth really is. There's some compelling evidence of giants beyond what we've ever thought giants could be.
I just know that I don't know it all, right? And I know that there's a lot of truth out there that's hidden for whatever reason, right? That the people in positions of power have deemed it necessary to control us. And it would be the reason why I say it would be the biggest conspiracy of all time is because it would just be so destabilizing to a person. Your whole. You don't really think of it too much, but the idea that you live on this planet kind of anchors you, right? You're familiar with it. It's been with you your whole life. You know this to be true. If that was taken away, it would be like cutting one of your legs off. You'd be like, well, what does this mean, and where am I?
I agree with what you're saying, but I completely disagree with it because they have us believing that we're a speck on a speck in an infinite universe, spinning and spiraling out of control. Where all of our resources are limited, and there's no God, and it's everything is random. That is insanity, but that's where everybody lives. When we recognize that we live on a flat, stationary plane with a creator that created us for a reason, that we're here with a purpose, and that everything is okay, and there's plenty of everything. And, that's why they're hiding the flat Earth. All the countries, the division of countries, that's fake. Racism, it's all fake.
Yeah, I agree.
They're making all of this up to divide us and separate us. They're getting flat earthers to fight with other flat earthers over different ideas when we're all on the same team. We're all just trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing they have against us is division. Okay, if they can get us to divide, they can conquer us.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
and
great tactic.
If the world woke up tomorrow morning, this went viral, went to 9 billion people, and tomorrow morning everyone woke up and realized that the Earth was flat. All governments are gone. It's all dead. They've lost all control. Nobody would listen to anything, and guess what? Everybody would get along.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I totally agree with what you said, though, Charlie. That it is I think why this is so alarming, this topic, is exactly what you said, is everything changes in your life, right? I mean, your parents,
Everything.
they come and die, they come and go. Grandparents are, most of our grandparents are all dead now. You change schools, you change teachers, you change friends, you change houses. Everything changes except for the globe. And so when Flat Earth comes along, all of a sudden that's that one rock, that's that one stable place that people have in their lives that they're like, well, this will never change. And we're coming along and saying, hey, have you ever looked into it? Because a lot of people simply haven't. We just went to school, we were told where we live, and we just all agreed with it, and we all just moved on. And at a certain point, when you start asking some questions and you expect easy answers, the answers aren't there. And that's what made me start looking into it further. And then I just realized that there is no answers. It's just believe it because they say so. And really, when I see things like magic, once you understand how a magician works, and a magician can fool you with their hands right in front of you. They can be doing this with cards and with things, and you can't even see the trick. Well, I think when you're talking about the sky, when you're talking about trillions of miles and light years, and you're talking about planets that we'll never see, I just think the trick is incredibly easy. For them, if you're a magician, if you're a wizard, tricking people on this level is ridiculously easy because it's something they can't go and verify. We can't verify that we've been to the moon. We can't verify that they've got a rover on Mars. We can't verify those things. It's just simply believe what they say or not. And I get tricked by magicians right in front of my face where I can't figure out the trick. So if I expect to be able to figure out the trick of how they're doing it with the space and space travel, sometimes I'm not sure we'll ever be able to figure it out. It's so multifaceted.
Yeah, it's true. It's funny. I use that same analogy about magicians. And once you see the trick, once somebody explains how it works, well, then they can never pull it on you again, of course. And that's the goal, right? Trying to figure out.
Yeah, once you see Flat Earth, you can never go back.
Yeah, I would imagine it is once you come to an understanding, just a recognition of that, if that is in fact how it is. And I'm not saying that it is, and I'm not saying that it isn't. I'm just saying I'm in that camp of I need more information. I have realized how little I actually know about geometry by trying to look into flat Earth stuff. I'm I need to retake geometry again because I don't know how all these things work. People are like, well, it's, the circumference of this and the diameter of this and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, if you say so, I just proved to me one thing I am certain of. I don't know geometry very well, but I do want to know how, you talked about the Bible, right? And we all sort of said we're not using that as any sort of reference point as it being fact. But are there other ancient texts or stories or anything that talk about, from other cultures that talk about the Earth being flat? I know that David Icke has talked about
just all of them.
Yeah, just all of them.
Just all of them. Okay. Well, I know that David Icke has talked about Credo Mutwa in South Africa, talking about their ancient Zulu tradition, talking about a time before the moon. And that to me is interesting. So talk to me a little bit about the texts that show that everything is flat.
Well, the Vedic literature, for sure, all the old Vedic texts definitely describe that. But again, in those Vedic texts, they talk about distances and things that are hard to fathom as well. How big this flat plane is, how far away we are from the moon and the sun. Some of those don't necessarily jive, but I think they definitely talk about flat Earth. The Babylonian, all the old stuff, the Hebrew, all those cosmologies were definitely flat. Even the Egyptian, so which a lot of people hold a lot to. So, Dave, you have other ones? Basically, all of them.
All of the NASA introduced the globe. Earlier, you said that you don't need any convincing that NASA's full of crap, right?
No. None.
So the question is, why is NASA going to all of this effort to deceive us about space? And it's to make us to believe that we live on a ball, that men can go to another ball in space and walk on it. Mm-hmm. Because without that, people would be questioning. The biggest argument we get is, what about NASA? What about all the space agencies? They're all nonsense, and they're all in it together. Maybe they're working separately a little bit. I mean, did you see the soda can that docked with the space station yesterday or the other day? Go if you on the app today. I think it's the app video today. Yeah, it is insanity. It's literally a Coke can that docked with the space station. Check it out. I'll bring it up. There it is. That docked with the space station today.
That really is a Coke can.
That is a Coke can. Yeah, it is a soda can.
Oh man.
I
think it's a Budweiser can.
I talk a lot. I talk about NASA in the book for sure. I rip them to shreds. I have big problems with Adam Stelter at the Mars mission.
Right.
That guy knows nothing.
Zero.
Elon
Musk knows nothing.
I'll tell you what, Adam Stelter would have been good on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire as long as he could ask the audience or phone a friend, because during his presentations, he's asking the audience like crazy, and he's like, is Miguel San Martin out here? Right. Is and you're like, are you on some sort of weird game show? You don't know what sort of resolution, you don't know what kind of file your Mars rover is sending back pictures in. Like, you're in charge of this program. Like, you're not. You don't think you would know that? Like, I have big problems with that guy. I think that guy is totally full of it. But also NASA in general. I mean, I listed 100 things with NASA that I don't buy. And it's a shame, too, because I want to believe it.
Right. Yeah, me
it's
too.
the one conspiracy that I think a lot of people are like, ooh, I like that. I want to believe that we went to the moon. And even especially if you're an American, you're like, even better that it's our people that went to the moon. And now I look around and if I'm objective and take a step back, I go, well, our government lies about just about everything, right? They don't have a problem with that. I wouldn't put it past them to lie. Right. We've got technology that we can't reproduce anymore. Well, we had it, but we destroyed it. And you're like, okay, that makes no sense.
Here's the thing that happened not pretty recently is there was a law in place that said the mainstream media is not allowed to purposely lie to the United States citizens.
I know.
Okay, yeah, the Smith-Month Act. Right. So, but just think about this: to remove that, it takes time, effort, money. You got to put a bill through or whatever. Why would you remove it?
If you want, the only reason is because you wanted to legalize propaganda. That's it. Right. That's the only reason, because you could have left it in
all of the craziness started right after that.
You bet it did. All the shooting started right after that. I have major trust issues with it. I mean, I don't believe anything that they say. And that extends to NASA. And then you go, well, if this is like anything, like I encourage people when they buy my book, it's like, some of the topics will interest you and some might not, but find one, because once you find one, you'll say, okay, if this is a lie, what else is a lie? Right. And that'll lead you, that chain reaction, that rabbit hole thing where you just kind of go, and where's the end, right? So did we go to the moon? I don't know. Did we go to the moon? That's something that people would be interested in. Then the next step is, Jesus, are we really living on a ball?
Right.
Or are we living on a flat plane? Because everything in my body and mind,
every sense that you have tells you you're on a flat stationary plane.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But the liars in science, the liars in the government, the liars at NASA tell you the opposite, which is unfathomable. But as a child, you had no defense against what they told you, and now it's a core belief.
You had no choice.
You got it. Yeah. You don't first of all, you don't see a reason why they would lie to you about it. You don't have the knowledge to challenge them on it. You don't have an understanding of the science at a level that you could get into a debate about it. So you just kind of say, well, this is, the sky's blue and we live on a round planet,
and it's
right?
alarming.
And then there's other round planets out there. And I love that. I wrote did reports in like 7th and 8th grade on Saturn and Jupiter and all these things. It's fascinating to me.
Now, our optics have outgrown their lies. We can take the P900 or the P1000 super zoom camera, zoom in on a star, and it's a pulsing ball of, not even a ball, it's a pulsing sentient light, in my opinion. I mean, it is not a rock in space reflecting light. Think about this.
What it's not is 25 trillion miles away. That's what it's not.
No kidding.
Yeah, I just struggle with that one and so much. The fact that they think we would be able to see those distances. I mean, even on the very clearest day, we can see 200, 300, 400 miles. That's at its max. That's as far as we can see, and there's just atmosphere in the way, and everything gets in the way. But they tell us that just tilt the telescope up a little bit and take a look at those stars. And of course, the closest star is said to be 25 trillion miles away. That's just ridiculous to me.
Yeah. It always seems a bit weird.
Charlie, you haven't heard me every time. That's my trigger word, trillion. So people don't realize what a trillion is, and I don't think you do either, right? How long is 1 trillion seconds?
Oh, it's got to be like 70,000 years. 30.
It's 31. That was a great guess. 31,000 years is 1 trillion seconds, and we're seeing a light from 25 trillion miles away.
And that's the closest. That's the closest star.
That's the closest one.
So I have always wondered about this, and this is something that's tripped me up, and maybe you guys can help me figure this out. So if we're rotating around the sun, and we're rotating, our solar system is part of the Milky Way, and the Milky Way is rotating around a black hole. Shouldn't we sort of be doing a corkscrew?
Right.
Yeah.
Instead of just because like what they've told us is based on if everything was stationary, right? But it's not stationary. We're moving around the Milky Way. The Milky Way is moving somewhere else, so it should kind of look like this and not like that, right?
I agree.
There's an animation out there that shows. So we're spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, which is faster than the speed of sound. Just wrap your head around that. So we're spinning faster than the speed of sound. So here's the sun. And while we're spinning, we're orbiting at 66,000 miles per hour. Mm-hmm. Okay? You can't even fathom that speed. Mm-hmm. But while we're orbiting, all the other planets are staying in the same line, on the same plane as us, orbiting. But the sun is going over 500,000 miles an hour. So we're spiraling, chasing the sun, and spinning, and traveling billions of miles. But every year on the same day, 365 days from now at this time, the stars will be in the exact same formation that they were today.
Yeah, that shouldn't happen.
It shouldn't happen in 10 minutes. It should change, let alone a year. Okay? But there's no parallax. Nothing moves. The fact that we see the time-lapse stars circling the Polaris shows us that they are spinning and we are stationary. Large bodies of water, perfectly calm. I have a video called If You Believe in the Heliocentric Model, You Believe in This. It's a 5-minute video, and it just shows all of the nonsense. People will watch it that believe in the globe and think that I'm lying about these things. These are globe facts, and it's utter nonsense.
I love that you guys are doing this, by the way. I really do. I think that this is, obviously I have a lot to learn about it. I want to know more and figure this out, but it's fascinating to me. I wonder what you guys think of the lunar wave. What is that?
Very interesting, huh?
Very interesting.
Yeah, now
is that a holographic glitch?
Yeah, we're seeing it at other, I've seen it on planets now. Some people have caught it on Saturn. And it comes in twos, which is really strange. It certainly doesn't seem to be the wake of any kind of jet. It almost looks like a catching up of a rendering issue. It was really interesting.
Yeah.
I think it's something that we just don't understand yet, or maybe we can never understand. But it's what I try to do, and I do it all the time, is forget everything we've ever been conditioned with about where we live, and then go outside when the moon is out, or the sun is out, or the clouds are up, or whatever, and look and ask yourself, like I do this all the time. I'll see the moon is right up there, and I'm 35 miles away from New York City. And you can see the New York City skyline, and I'll say to Paige, what's closer, the moon or New York City? And my answer is the moon. Okay.
Dave thinks the moon's real close.
But if you look at it, you can see sky behind the moon during the day. When the moon is out in the day, there's blue behind the moon.
That has never made sense to me. Why you can say, and it might be that there's some logical explanation that I just don't know. But it's always kind of thrown me off that some days you can just see the moon in the middle of the day. Not all day, but it's for some parts. You're like, oh, why? I don't understand the mechanics of that. Why it is that some days you can see it and some days you can't. And
so people think that the sun is lighting up the earth. Imagine if a photographer didn't have a backlight and was just taking flash in the dark pictures. It would look like the Blair Witch Project. Okay. Right. You need that backlight. Well, the sky is the backlight. The sun is the spotlight. Okay. So there's daylight in the sky and the sun is the spotlight. I believe, this is my opinion, and there's a lot of evidence to it, that the sun is electrical and it is fluorescing the gases in the sky, and nitrogen, which is tons of nitrogen up there, fluoresces blue. If you have a nitrogen bulb and you put it near a Tesla coil, it'll light up blue like the sky. And there's a YouTuber called Dan Dimensions who sends up balloons, and he's caught. He does it at sunrise and sunset, and he's caught light next to dark, like intersecting each other. And he shows how it's the plasma being lit up by the giant Tesla coil we call the sun. And I don't want to degrade the sun by saying it's a Tesla coil, but it behaves like a Tesla coil. So I also believe that we're taught that light travels for billions of years and forever and ever and doesn't lose its intensity. I believe light goes a very short distance and then just stops. I believe that's how they know when it's going to be sunset. It's not daylight. It only goes a short distance, especially through the thick soup that we live in of the atmosphere. And then it just stops. And Dan's caught that on video. It's Dan Dimensions. It's probably one of his top videos there. So check that out.
And Eric Dollard, didn't he do a thing where he's sitting in his car and he's talking about how the sun is a transistor?
Right.
It always stinks that the smartest guys are broadcasting from a tent or a car. Or, it's just like like these guys. Damn.
Yeah, he looks like he's in a junkyard.
The guy was too smart.
He does look like he's in a Jeep in a junkyard.
Yeah, but he was explaining it in a way. I was like, what is going on here with this guy? This guy is out of this guy is either off the charts genius or he is out of his mind or possibly even both. But it was making sense.
I want to give you one thing to think about. And you know how when you're a kid, you're driving in the car and you're like, look, Mom, the moon's following me. And the parent said you were an idiot. Well, you weren't. It was following you. We all see the lights in the sky in a position relative to our own position. Okay? That seems kind of crazy, but it's very easy to prove and you can demonstrate it. And one of the things is if we're both on a beach 50 feet apart, a mile apart, and the sun is setting, you're going to see the sun drawing a line right to your feet at the water's edge, right? Right across the water, the sun walking on the water.
The reflection.
Yeah. And then and I'm going to see it walking on the water to my feet. And when I look over to you, I don't see the sun walking to the water on you, and you don't see it to me. We both see it relative to our own position. And we see the sun in a different position in the sky. When you look up, the sun looks like it's right above the clouds. But if you go in an airplane, go above the clouds, well, now the sun's higher all of a sudden. Okay? But when we send balloons up to 120,000 feet, the sun's right there. It's not much higher. That's where we see the sun. And then if you look at that sun from 120,000 feet and you look down at the earth, there's no way that the people on the earth are seeing the sun that high. They're seeing a sun much lower, right? And so here's a visualization I tell people. Imagine if I put a thin blue sheet and I separated my room. I just dropped the sheet down and it's sheer, but you can't see through it. And back here, I have a bright light. So we're now looking through the sheet, and I can see the light on the sheet. If I'm over here, I'm going to see the light on the sheet right here. Okay?
Right.
Am I in the picture?
You're good.
Yeah.
You're good. With
And if somebody was over here, they're going to see the light on a different point of the sheet. Like if you had a third person and I said, all right, I see the light right there. They're going to draw an X on the sheet. And the other person says, no, the sun is over here. That's kind of how we're seeing the sun manifest in our atmosphere, in our plasmasphere, whatever you want to call it, in this crazy simulation that we live in.
Yeah,
diffused through the atmosphere.
It manifests in a position personal to us.
Interesting.
We each have a unique relationship with the sun, which sounds a lot like some religions. out there.
Yeah, no kidding.
The sun or the sun, right?
Right.
There's nothing you can say about the sun that you really can't say about Jesus. It's like, and then here's the other thing.
Turns water into wine.
Sun worship
walks
is
on water.
evil. Anyone that they were sun worshipers, they were evil. Well, they're telling us that sun worship is evil. I'm going the other way.
Yeah.
I love the sun. I love the sun.
And then they just, Jesus and all those guys have the halo on their head. Yeah, they have the halo over their heads,
Yeah.
The sun has
So
a halo.
that being said, what are we talking about as estimates of the actual size of the sun and the moon?
I don't think the sun is a physical object. I think it's a light. And I think that the size depends, like on a foggy day, the sun it's different sizes. Now you put a filter on, it phases out and stuff. I don't think the sun that we see is a physical object. There might be a physical object that is sending that image down. That's why when the moon is a new moon, I believe it's still there, but there's no image, there's no light to send into our atmosphere to manifest. So, I don't know. Here's the only thing that we can say about any lights in the sky. When I say lights in the sky, I mean planets. I mean the sun. I mean moon. I mean stars. I mean the ISS. The only thing we can say is they're lights in the sky. That's it. That's all we can say with 100% accuracy. Yeah.
Yeah, because we can't go there. We can't verify. Right. So you do have Eric Dollard and these other guys saying that from free space you wouldn't even be able to see the sun. He flat out says that. There's other guys I've heard in the electric universe model that say the same thing, that you wouldn't be able to see without an intervening atmosphere. So when you hear those things and then you watch NASA films that seem to show the sun in free space, then you have to question, well, who's telling the truth here? Because somebody's saying you can't see it, and then other people are showing you, here, this is it right here. I certainly don't believe the liars like NASA. So,
it is. It's a strange. It's strange that NASA is very prolific in CGI, right? It seems like everything that they show to back up what they're trying to tell you is done with what can best be described as just fake images.
Watch any rocket launch. It shows a close-up, and then 2 seconds later it shows a different angle, and then another second later it shows another angle, and within 60 seconds they're into a cartoon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. I was just saying that yesterday. Actually, I was saying the exact same thing. It's like these rocket launches don't make any sense to me.
And it's as if the cameras don't exist, because we know that there's GoPro cameras. People put cameras on everything now. You're jumping out of a plane, jumping off of a cliff, going underwater, everything except for space. When it comes to space, we never get any camera footage. There's, they supposedly Israel tried to land on the moon and failed, and after that you had India, and all you get is a cartoon. You can't even see, why is there not a camera on this craft? And they would just say, we lost contact, but we never got to see any camera footage of it. It's as if cameras don't exist in space. It's ridiculous. To me, that should be a huge question mark as to what's going on here.
We have the Flat Earth International Conference coming up in Denver on November 14th and 15th. And I wanted to I just didn't pull it off. To tell everyone to bring their laptops. We'll all sit in these rows of tables, give everybody polo shirts with NASA logos, and everybody could stare at their things. We could have a simulation on the screen, and then we could have a pretty girl announcing, 20 seconds, 15 seconds, whatever, and we could do it better than NASA for zero budget.
Charlie would know as much as Brian Stetzler knew. Yeah. He would be able to answer that many questions. So we'd be fine. We'd be fine.
Let's take it. I need to ask the audience.
Right.
I'm looking for somebody. Where is he? He's right on the answer. No, I do not know the answer to that, but I'll get you the answer. I mean, everything about it is just
is Miguel
nonsense.
Samaniego in here? I don't know. Right. Just passing every answer. It's ridiculous.
Then let me ask you this. What causes the variations in seasons that we we So I understand that you've got night and day, but
Dave's
then
never
there's
been so excited
sun
in his life. Look at Dave.
Oh, please. Okay, good.
Oh my God,
Dave, we need the app out. We need the app now.
I don't know. I don't know how to show it other than to hold it up to the camera.
That seemed to work pretty well. So go ahead.
I'll hold it up to the camera. Yeah. So
we'd rather see it than you, to be honest.
Yeah, I get it. So
back it up a little bit.
Here's the sun. And it goes around the Earth every 24 hours. The reason it's not pinned to the hour hand is because we're in daylight savings time, which is fake time. The sun is in real time.
Right.
Okay. So you see there's two yellow lines on there. The outer one is the Tropic of Capricorn. You've heard that. And the inner one is the Tropic of Cancer. The sun oscillates throughout the course of the year. It takes 6 months to get to the Tropic of Cancer on the inside. Then it takes 6 months more to go all the way out to the Tropic of Capricorn. So when it's heading toward the Tropic of Capricorn right now, it's getting farther from the inner northern hemiplane, and it's closer to the outer southern hemiplane. So they're getting into their summer. The sun is going over their heads, and the sun, for us, because it's farther away, is lower in the sky, and it's a closeness thing. Like if you had a heat lamp and I was shining it on your face and then I tilted it away, it's not going to make much of a difference. But if I moved it away, it's going to be winter. Okay, we're told that it's the tilt of the sun, the tilt of the Earth, that that creates the seasons, right? Because the here's the Earth and the sunlight is hitting direct, but when we tilt away, that sunlight's spread over a bigger area. Yeah. Utter nonsense. Think about this. This is an easy concept, but people just don't make their brains work. In June 21st, when it's closest into us, it's at the Tropic of Cancer. If I go to the beach at sunrise, as soon as the sun appears on the horizon, I can feel that heat pounding on my face, and it gets warm so fast, and I can really feel that heat. That is like tipping the Earth, right? We had our seasons not like this, but like this, right? So that light is spread across the entire Earth. Okay, I can feel that heat on my face right there on June 21st. December 21st, when it's on the Tropic of Capricorn, which is in the southern hemiplane, at noon that day, when the sun is at its highest point for me, which isn't as high as in the summer here, but it's way higher than at sunrise in June, right? Sunrise in June, it can't get any lower. It's 1 degree off the horizon. It's up, let's say it's 50 degrees up in the sky. I can look out at the sun and I can't even feel the heat on my face. Yeah. Why is that?
I don't know.
I'm getting much more direct rays.
Right.
And in the helio-nonsensical model, did you know that we are farther from the sun in our summer, in the northern summer, than we are in the winter?
I did not.
We're farther.
Imagine that.
Yeah. And we're told that this little tilt, the spreading by that little tilt, is causing the seasons. If that was the case, every sunrise would be arctically freezing. But it's not. It's the localness of the sun. The sun comes by in our summer. It warms up the land. That land radiates overnight. It gets cooler towards the morning. Sun comes up. Bam, it's heating it up again. That's why in July and August is warmer than June, because the Earth has really been sucking up the sun. Even though the sun's starting to go away again, it's still holding that resonant heat. Seasons make zero sense on the helio-nonsensical model. They make complete and total sense. Write this down. On my channel, which is DITRH, stands for Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, I have a video called, what do I have? Oh, no, there's a video called The Sun Explained by Stinky Cash. It's not on my channel. The Sun Explained, and the channel name is Stinky Cash. And he shows you the seasons. It's a nice song. It's like 3 minutes. It's beautiful.
But if you think about the globe and it being half the time leaning one way, half the time leaning the other, then really we should see the same thing at the North Pole and South Pole. And we don't see the same thing at all. When you look at the flat Earth model.
Apart.
Yeah, and if you see what Dave shows on it, on the app, you can really see why it is that the outskirts Antarctica is the frozen tundra, and why in the north it kind of oscillates, right? It goes from being ice to water, ice to water. Of course, that's different than we were all taught when we think of Santa Claus being at the North Pole and everything. But really, like Dave said, seasons make no sense on a globe Earth. It just wouldn't happen that way. The north and the south should be identical. There shouldn't be anything that would be causing them to be so vastly different, and they are vastly different. There's no plants, there's no animals that can live in the south. In the north, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of animals, flora and fauna. Clearly, it's not the same. There's something different about the northern summer and the southern summer, and the difference is that one, the sun is inside that track, it's on the outside track, and the sun never gets far enough out to melt the frozen tundra that is Antarctica.
Kind of like that.
So Yeah, and basically the sun oscillates between those two lines, as you can see. Hold it back up, Dave, just for a second. Just like you had it. There you go. So you can see the sun right now is about on the equator, right? It's in between the two tropics. Well, when the sun gravitates inward, and that's why you would get 24-hour days if you're in Norway or Alaska, because the sun is on the inner track. It's going around. It's not far enough away for you to lose the sun. And then when it gets to the outer track, which is out over Australia as we see it there, when it's on that outer track is when there's 24-hour nights in the center because the sun is too far to ever see it. It never rises for somebody inside there. But again, the fact that it goes in and out, comes back, is why we never get a perpetual ice at the North Pole. There would be sometimes ice, sometimes water, based on where the sun is. But on the outer tracks, it's basically always ice. Unless, a lot of flat earthers believe that sun moving outward is either getting further each year, which I've seen people say it's been proven. I haven't proven that to myself. But if it is getting further, who knows? There's a lot of talk of, could there be another sun that pops up? Who knows? Or is there more suns out there?
What about that? There have been people that have captured an additional, a second sun. What's that all about? Is that nonsense, or is there something to that?
I think it could be either. I mean, I haven't caught it enough to say that it's for sure. Sometimes I think we get a lot of lens effects on cameras.
Right. I think, yeah.
It's
And
kind of
I also think that there's lens effects with our atmosphere, with all of the spraying that's going on in the sky.
For sure.
Who knows? Sometimes the sun it'll manifest in like two positions at once, or at least a smaller piece of it will, because it's not something physical and it's a lens effect, possibly through a dome. There's so many options. I know what your next question is.
Oh.
What is the name of that awesome app I was just showing?
Yes, that was my next question.
That's the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app, available on Android and iOS.
Nice.
Okay.
So make sure you pick that up if you don't already have it.
That's the gift that keeps on giving, right? You get that to give that to someone for Christmas, and you'll ruin their life, man. They'll be on their computer for the next 3 months straight looking up flat Earth stuff.
Well, the thing about that app that's so great is that a lot of people, like you said, with your family that maybe disagrees with you or thinks, okay, that's fine, go ahead, Jaron, believe the Earth is flat. When you finally show them that app for the first time, they kind of go, oh. It all kind of starts to settle in, because at first they're just thinking, kind of like what I thought. My wife told me, do you think the Earth could be flat? I said, no, you're crazy. How do planes go around it? I've flown east, you've flown west. We both got back to where we started from, and the Earth must be a ball. It isn't until you see something like that where you start to understand how east-west navigation works, and the fact that east-west is a circle, both on a globe and on a flat Earth.
Yeah. That is something that when I realized that, I was like, okay, well, this isn't too far off, because either way, if you're going west, or if you're doing it on a flat Earth, or if you're doing it on a globe, you'll still wind up in the same place. Sort of still works the same. So when I understood that, I realized
it works on both.
It works on both, yeah. I'm curious, this might be a little bit off topic, but it could fit into this, because when we're talking about Antarctica and you're talking about the North Pole and things like that, there had been, people talking about, God, I don't know. I've probably listened to enough of these of Mel talking about people flying over the South Pole and noticing that there's, where you're not allowed to go. You're not allowed to fly over, by the way. Noticing a gigantic hole. What do you guys think about inner Earth type, that concept? Anything to that?
I think so. I think I'm certainly open to a lot of that. The hollow Earth talk and because the under Earth is so cavernous, and I think sometimes we forget that until you go down and you ride some subways, or you really get down in the Earth and you realize how deep these things can go, and then you hear stories of these dumb bases and things like that are tens of stories deep or even further. So
you hear stories of tunnels from Washington to Denver.
For sure.
Yeah.
And there's many, many reports of them. Try doing that on a ball, all right? Tunnels don't account for curvature. There's tunnels that are straight for 10 miles. Well, guess what? They pop out of the Earth at one point. Tunnels don't curve. So being on a flat Earth, there could be many levels, many denser levels above us, heavens above us. I don't know. We're on this level.
Right.
Yeah.
But
and what about Werner von Braun talked about that, or put it on his gravestone, right? That Bible passage.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Firmament
talking about the firmament.
That's
that's a strange thing, right? Of all the things he could have put on there, why put that on there? Do you think that maybe he clearly had knowledge that other people don't have, but do you think he had discovered that, or that was known within his inner circle?
Yeah, Dave, talk about the Carol Rosin and what she discussed with him, and she was very close to him, and he seemed to know the order of events that would be coming up with the alien deception ultimately being the final trump card.
You look at the amount of alien stuff that's in the news now, and the Area 51 nonsense, which was staged, it wasn't real. The storm Area 51, that was government propaganda. The Air Force releasing, the videos they got were real. Movies, they're programming us to accept it. You know how they pre-program
Big
us
time.
with everything.
Oh yeah.
I mean, even the globe, 1927, I think it was, the Universal made their globe, and then when NASA sent their rocket up, hey, it matches Universal's globe, right? And then
they're both in the movie making business.
I posted a video on the app the other day that it showed a trip to the moon. This was before NASA, and it looks like the same footage that NASA used. It looks like the same rocket. It's unbelievable. So they, if you pop something new out, people won't believe it. But if they saw little clips of it in things that they didn't really think about in a movie, in a commercial, just little things, it's in their mind. So when their mind tries to reference, like, is this real or not? It pulls up things and it all works together. That's how our minds work.
Yeah.
Like if I said something to you like, your house, images of your house are popping into your head, and you're like, yes, that's my house. But if I said something that you've never heard before, your mind doesn't know what to do. Like on 9/11, we've all seen what happened on 9/11 many times before 9/11, and that's how we believed it.
Right, and that's a weird thing. The predictive programming and the pre-planning that through the media and everything is a really, really slimy and evil deception that is kind of hard to understand.
Why did Obama during his presidency mention flat Earth? How many times, Jaron? Between him calling his wife Michael?
Numerous times.
Yeah, he did. He brought it up quite a bit.
It seemed. What is that about? Why are they trying to get a hold of it? I mean, they're doing some sort of best word I have is wizardry. They're doing some sort of wizardry.
I thought when I saw that of Obama doing it, what I thought, first thing that went through my head was that was sort of like an inside wink to the people in his, that he knows that know what's going on, that he's kind of throwing them a little coded message like, oh yeah, I'll bring this up. Like, we don't have to have a meeting of the Flat Earth Society. And, and everyone like of his buddies would be like, oh shit, he brought up Flat Earth. He did it right in front of everybody.
Exactly what I would do. Exactly what I would do. I always say, Charlie, that you got to look at this. When you're looking at Flat Earth and the globe, things fall into three baskets, can fall into three baskets. Works on a globe, works on a flat Earth, or works on both. Circumnavigation east and west work on both. What you'll find out is absolutely nothing ever goes into the works on a globe only basket. Nothing ever, except magic and fairy tales and rainbow unicorn farts.
Narnia.
Yeah.
Narnia. So the question is, like you said, you're questioning this, and that you don't necessarily believe it, which belief is the enemy of knowing, as Crow 777 says. Is what is the one proof you have of the ball? And that's how we become flat earthers, when we try to find that one proof.
I don't have any.
I know you don't. It's a rhetorical question in my mind, because there is no answer. And only when the person takes the time honestly to look and says, okay, I've got it, photos of Earth. And then we show them that photos of Earth are nonsense.
Exactly. I know that.
You've got nothing. So if there's in the words of the great Bob Nodell, a preponderance of evidence, of countless evidence for flat stationary plane and zero of the globe, what's going on? We can see too far. Water is level. Right. You can't have a vacuum next to high pressure without a barrier. Okay,
that's a big one. I mean, that's those are the ones that, or finding out how they got the distance to the sun, and you read back and you find this out, that they had to do the transit of Venus, and they did a bunch of geometry to figure it out, and you're like, okay. And then you realize that you're like, well, wait a second, how did they know the size of Venus? Well, then you find out They just estimated and said, well, we think it's the same size of Earth. So that's how they came up with the size of the sun, is to look up at that light in the sky and say, that must be the same size as the Earth. Well, that's ridiculous. How did they get so lucky? That's the best guess ever made in the history of the world, for someone to look at a light in the sky and say, well, let's pretend that's the same size as Earth. Now when it's crossing the sun, now we know the distance to the sun. It's all just such fairy tale. Really, it is fairy tale. It's the same thing if you believe, for me, we've all heard Aristophanes, right? He's the one who used the sticks and the shadows to figure out the size of the globe.
Works on a flat Earth.
Yeah, but if he figured that out in 275 BC, it's certainly interesting that no globe was ever made, because the oldest globe there is 1492. So that's 1,700 years where people knew we were living on a globe, but nobody decided to construct one or draw one or anything. They just were just supposed to believe that. And then on top of that, when you're talking about these sticks and shadows, if they knew the size of the globe, then why would it take 1,700 years for somebody to get in a boat and say, hey, we're going to go west? Certainly it makes more sense to me that people at the time of Columbus did, a lot of them, believe that the Earth was flat. Now, again, that's not the story told today. They have to completely change it and tell us, no, that you were taught wrong in school, and everybody knew the Earth was round, and Columbus just decided to go. I think there's so many things wrong with the stories we're told and with history. If you believe history at this point, I think you got another thing coming. We've been lied to on a massive level. And it doesn't surprise me. It's like you said, Charlie. It doesn't surprise me if another one of these lies happens to be the biggest lie that there is. And certainly when you look at evidence and you go out and try and test these things yourself, I remember when somebody said that we'd be able to, zoom in on boats and you'd be able to see them reappear. Because the big thing is boats go over the curve. But you can go out to the beach and you can watch a boat go over the curve. And then I started hearing people say, no, if you go out there with a zoom camera, you can watch the boat disappear with your eyes, and then when you zoom in, you'll bring it back. I said, no, it's impossible. There's no way that's true. You go out and you do it yourself, and you see that it is true. And so pretty soon you start to have all these things that, I was told, I don't know about you, Charlie, when I was in school, I was told that water goes down the opposite direction in the opposite hemispheres.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's completely false. It's
False.
fake. So, when you find out things like that, and when we're saying it's false, now you can go look on Google, you can find that now they admit that it's false. But why are they teaching that to children in school? And there's people at the equator that have tricks set up where on one side of the equator they'll have a bowl that goes down the opposite direction, and the other side of the equator they'll have a bowl shaped the opposite way, and they'll get tips from people to show them that this, but it's all just a ruse. And so I look at it a lot as a magic trick. It's just stuff that they've perpetuated for a long time. And for me, I know a lot of people, when you ask the reason why, but I call into the question whether or not maybe they originally did think that it was a ball. Maybe they went out and they stood at the beach and they watched boats go over the edge with their eyes, and they said, yeah, okay, it must be a ball. We must be coming back around to where we started from. Okay, we think it's a ball. They started pushing that. They got rid of the church idea. Science was prevailing with this whole idea of the globe. If they ever realized that they were wrong about that, would they have told people? I don't think so. It's like today. If they realized evolution was wrong, you think science is going to tell people? No. They're going to keep that story because it's what tells their whole history. They need all those billions of years. They need evolution. They need all these things. So if something came up, like finding soft tissue in dinosaur bones, they're not going to let that out. They're not going to let that become part of science because they can't. So I wonder if the flat Earth is the same thing. Once they realized it, it's too late. They have to keep the globe going because they can't go back on what they said now. It would put it would propel the church back up in people's minds and really, smash on science in general. Well, they can't allow that. They have to keep the story going. So
it's the Church of Science right now.
Absolutely.
They've turned science into religion where you can't question it, whether it's shape of the planet or vaccines or how dare you bring that up. You talk about vaccines and you're anti-science. You're like, whoa, hang on a second. I'm pro-science. This is the science I want to talk about. You want to talk about the what you've decided the outcome is, and what I'm saying is we've got problems with the scientific method. I am pro-science. I'm not anti-science. That's why I want to understand that, the with regard to the vaccine thing. And so when I dug into that and realized, okay, well, we're definitely being lied to by companies that have a lot of money at stake. I can understand that lie. I can understand why they would want to keep their product, out there for sale. The flat Earth versus ball Earth thing. These are all like really, really awesome points that are kind of hard to disprove.
Well, I definitely think people need to open their minds to all possibilities, and especially when something is being taught to children at an age that we talked about, that they can't refute, they can't even think any differently. I was saying that, until 5 years ago when this whole flat earth topic really came about, there was no way you could come out of fourth grade and not believe in the globe, because that's what was taught, that's what was pushed. You had no other option. I'm happy at least that we're opening up the conversation to where people now are going to question in school. Children are going to not just believe it right off the bat. They're going to try and challenge it, and I think great things will come from it, whether we're right or wrong,
I think we should always be questioning everything.
Absolutely.
Right? You should never just take people's words for it. But that's what we've come to we've got this great technology, but most of us don't know how any of it works. I couldn't build a car. I know how to drive a car, but I couldn't build a car. I just know how it works. So I get in there and I trust that this is how it all fits together, and this is how it all works. So on some levels, you kind of have to trust engineering and trust science. But where is that boundary? Where do you trust, and where do you start to say, okay, well, I've got some problems with this. What are we doing here? And where I come out at all of this is that somebody's got to have the information, and somebody's got to be in charge of controlling it and making sure that it doesn't come out. So what's in it for them? Because there's always something in it for them.
Here's what's in it for them, and we know the names like the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and the Queen and all that stuff. There's names that we don't have any idea. These are the people that decide what they're going to put in the textbooks, what they're going to teach the children. And now you have all the control over the world. It's your domain. It's flat. All of this stuff. You have all of this power because of this knowledge. And you have the masses, the sheeple of the world. Are you going to give them lessons in sacred geometry and vortex mathematics, or are you going to teach them crap like algebra and fake history and science, which is scientism, and make them good worker slaves? Half the jobs in this world are nonsense, bureaucratical bullshit jobs. All right, they're just to keep people busy, so they have enough money to just pay their rent, to just have some beers, to go to their sports games, and pump the industrial machine. Or if you put the real knowledge in the textbooks, you're out of power. You can no longer do what you want, and create money out of nothing. So when people say why, it's the most obvious answer ever. It's to control the masses and keep you in a separate category from. They look at us as useless leaders, and I get it. The dumb people of this world, I can see how they look at us as useless dummies, because look at the crap we believe. We believe that nothing exploded and we were born. We believe that we're rocks flying through infinite space, but the stars never move. We believe nonsense. Okay. And they know that there's a purpose here, and that there's rules. Luckily for us, there's natural law or God's given law or whatever you want to call it. And they can't take our free will away. So they have to trick us. They tell us we're too stupid. We're like, we don't care, protect us, make more laws. We're in. And that's what it's all about. It's all about control.
Yeah. It's mind blowing, really. My brain hurts.
my brain.
Hey, what time zone are you in?
I'm in Denver.
You're in Denver. That's not too far from Dallas, Texas, in my book.
Oh yeah, for the convention in November.
Why don't you and your daughter, and you can get your wife, all of you, come on down and come to the convention.
You guys had it here in my hometown last year.
Blew it.
And I didn't go. I forgot about it or something.
Make a field trip out of it. Come and you'll see forget flat earth. Just come there, because everyone there knows everything in your book, or most of it, not everything. Your book is amazing. By the way, everybody, if you don't go on Amazon, or that's the place to get it, Amazon
or Barnes & Noble, if you like for the paperback, if you like that.
Get the paperback. The book feels great. It looks great. And it's hysterical. It's a coffee table book. It's a bathroom book. It's a vacation book. I brought it on vacation with me last year, and it's great. I was skimming through it, and
that's nice of you to say. Thank you. I
And I've
appreciate
got,
that.
for people looking for the links, there's links to the website, the octopus of globalcontrol.com, and then there's links to the Amazon place where people can purchase it in hard copy as well. So.
I've been getting more and more books on topics. A lot of them I haven't had time to read, but I have a heck of a bookcase. Like that bookcase, if an innocent bystander walked in and was, let me look at your bookcase, they're toast. Their life is ruined.
Oh, I've got back behind me, I've got Who Built the Moon. I've got Fingerprints of the Gods from Graham Hancock. I've got some David Icke
Where
books.
Did the Towers Go?
I don't have that.
That's a must-have.
I have The Trigger by David Icke sitting right behind me, a 900-page book that will be banned pretty soon. Right. And if anyone wants, I'll tell you what. This coming year, I'll be at Anarchapulco again, the Anarchist Convention.
Awesome.
So much fun. You guys got to go. I'm telling you, you would love it. Ron Paul speaking this year. John McAfee will be there. Freeway Rick Ross will be there again. Then all the alternative media. It's kind of like the Super Bowl media week of the week before the Super Bowl. Where all the alternative media is there.
Did I hear you say 3,000 people go to that?
Yeah.
Wow. I did not know it was that big.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, I spoke last year, and I got a new book coming out with Jeff Berwick, who's the owner or the creator of Anarchapulco and also Dollar Vigilante. Right. And that book should be out pretty soon. So I'm going to speak there. And like last year, David, this last February, they do it every February in Acapulco, Mexico. I spoke. David Icke was there. I got a chance to hang out with him, and we swapped books and chatted for a while. And it's just it's a good time.
Well, I think talking about a little bit about what you said in your interview, that's the same for us. Is when we go to these flat Earth conferences, some of the best times are the after party or the bar or eating dinner or anything where you're just getting
the lobby.
The lobby, right? And you were talking about the same thing with Anarchapulco, huh?
Yeah, I wound up in the bar till 1 o'clock in the morning with Ole Damagard talking about Operation Gladio, and Jason Goodman from Crowdsource the Truth. We're all sitting in there chit-chatting about that, and Mark Devlin walks in, and he's game, hey, I'm going to speak tonight. So it's crazy. You want to go chat with these people, they're available. I was having dinner and Ron Paul walked right by me and sat at the table behind me and had dinner. So I mean it's great. It's not just anarchists. It's not Molotov cocktails and burning cars or anything like that. It's like health and wellness and cryptocurrency and people that are into homeschooling and things like that. It was I was blown away. It was my first time going this last year, and I spoke a little bit about my book, and then I'm going to speak this next year about the new book with Jeff. I just felt like I kind of joked like, these are my people, these are they're from, the early 20s to their 60s. Everyone was really polite, really getting along. On Friday night, the big crazy anarchist thing that they did is they pulled up 3 large buses, loaded as many people on as wanted to, as could fit, and would give them $20. And they went to an animal preserve to release baby sea turtles into the ocean at night. So, so much for Molotov cocktails. Right. It was very well done, and it was a very respectful group. So, awesome. I think that people should check it out. It's worth examining, and I think you guys would be a good fit there. You'd be welcomed. People would be interested to hear what you guys have to say.
I just met Mark Devlin for the first time this past weekend. I was in Amsterdam for a conference, and he spoke there as well.
He just did it, and he's going to be doing an event in New York City in later in October in a couple weeks with Crow 777. You're going to go, and Billy Ray Valentine will be there. I chatted with him. He's just such a good dude. He's putting it on. It's going to be a great event. If I was in New York, I'd go for sure, but I won't be able to go. But it sounds like fun. Crow's going to show his new movie that he did with Jason. It'll be a good time.
Yeah, starting to see a lot of that happening, and maybe it didn't happen so much in the past, but I'm loving it to just see all these events and people getting together. I think it's going to have huge returns in these coming years.
Jason is speaking at the Flat Earth Conference also.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
He's doing a presentation on something Flat Earth, something good.
Nice. I love it.
Any other questions? Any other proof of the ball?
Listen, the proof is in the.
I give up. Earth is flat.
The proof that it's the social conditioning more so than anything. You break off of that and you get known as a guy who doesn't believe what everyone else on the planet believes. That's a very isolating and lonely place. Whatever, you know what I mean?
Hey,
oh, there you
gun
go.
to your head, flat or round,
planet.
flat or globe,
I'll tell you.
flat or globe. 5, 4, 3, 2. Boom, you're dead.
I know. And listen, I gotta dig into
That's
more
how
of this.
bad flat Earth is. People would rather take a bullet in the head than say the Earth is flat.
That's true.
I'll tell you,
You'd
it's a
rather
very
do that.
polarizing thing. I mean, you can be ostracized, or like we were talking about, David,
really?
being
No
like
way.
discredited.
Really?
People
I didn't
trying
know
to
that.
discredit everything that you've done because of this. And I understand that there's sort of barriers to people making that leap. I bet you there's a lot of closeted people, right? That they're like,
there's
don't
a
tell
ton.
anyone.
Wait,
Yeah.
that's 99% of the population out there is
So many.
closeted.
Well, you, Jaron, you've got your 10th Planet on there, your Eddie Bravo thing, and
Yeah.
I just did my new tinfoil hat episode will be out tomorrow.
Oh,
Actually, I
sweet.
just did
I'm
one on
actually going on there in the next couple days. We're just having scheduling conflicts.
Yeah, Sam's the best, and so
Sam's
I
awesome.
think they're going to do an event in Vegas in a couple of weeks, and I think
the
I'm going to.
Friday after they're in Vegas, the Friday of the conference.
I think I have to be there for work anyway, so I might. I live in Denver. I work in Vegas. So I might wind up being there. Sam was like, "Come on out, we'll bring you on stage and everything." I'm like, I don't know about that, but I definitely want to go check out one of those comedy shows that they do.
I went and saw the one that they did in Sacramento, and it was fantastic. And it's another thing like we talked about. It's just great people getting together. Everyone in the audience is awake. I was wearing a shirt that said NASA going nowhere since 1958, but the going nowhere since 1958 was very small type. A lot of people saw me and they would just make comments about NASA. Oh boy, what a joke. I'd have to say, no,
read the shirt.
read the shirt. But it was great to see everybody awake. I'll take that kind of comments about my shirt any day of the week.
Yeah, no kidding, huh?
Yeah, it was just a great audience, so it was fun.
Well, look, guys, this is. David, when you talked to me, when you called me, I was like, let's do it, man, because this is fun. Like, I like this. I like the. I mean, I'm not putting up much of a fight, as you might have noticed. I'm just
No fight.
I'm just gathering information, and it's when are you going to come to this information fully? When are and everyone's on a different path for that. I love it though. I love this stuff. I love these mysteries.
They're great. And just now, having this
can
conversation
we have
with us.
10 minutes with your wife and kid?
No, they won't.
Bring them in.
It'll be 2 minutes, and it'll be click.
They'll end the call. No, I think it's great, man. I think people opening their minds to these things, and it's not easy. It's I don't expect you to say after just one conversation with us, because it takes time, and it takes everything that you see going forward now is going to harken back to this conversation. It's going to harken back when you see the constant globe propaganda in every logo and the beginning of every movie and every commercial, and you'll start to see it like crazy everywhere. I was going to show you, Dave. I don't know if I can bring this up real quick. My wife was watching a movie called How to Get Girls the other night, and she called me over because she said, look what happened. I don't know if you can see this here. This is just a quick portion of this movie. Okay. Oh, there. Okay. Yeah. So watch this. They're walking through this hallway, and right there in the background, see that little quick sign?
Yeah.
So, Flat Earth?
Yeah, it was that quickly, and it's in a movie. I mean, it's a mainstream movie, or at least I don't know where she was watching it, Hulu or something. But there's a little sign that says "Join the Flat Earth Club."
How funny!
See, it's not really
nice. I see it. We see it.
So it says, "Join the Flat Earth Club. Open your mind." And I can't read what's on the bottom, but it's just interesting that we're starting to see things like that placed in movies because somebody set that set and had to put that on there. So it's getting out there more than people
everywhere.
think. Yeah.
It's Flat Earth is everywhere. People aren't. Sean from SGT again, he was saying that he had Crow on the other day talking about, our true cosmology, and he said he got 0 hate mail. Normally, he has someone on, has me on, has Crow on. He gets people, that's it, unsubscribing, you're the worst, you're an idiot. That's all gone away. Right. And now people are like, okay, what is up with this? And
so I feel like we're
Flat
doing
Earth
our job.
Is growing exponentially.
Yeah.
Flat Earth is dead, is what the trolls say. Yeah, Flat Earth is dead. We're now at Flat Earth 20.0. We were at Flat Earth 1.0 last year. Right. We're at 20.0.
You're banned. You've made it when you're banned from YouTube.
Right.
Yeah.
When they're blocking your videos and they're taking them down, demonetizing, delisting. Yeah. You got to be doing something right. You're over the target.
I agree. That's what I always say. You're taking that flack, man. You're right over the target. So it's funny that's that caught my attention. Like a lot of people, we went, why did they ban the flat Earth videos? Like, unless there's something to it.
Yeah, because the sad thing and what they shouldn't have done is mix it in with like 9/11. Because there's a lot of people that are awake to 9/11 that won't even pay attention to flat Earth, but when they're lumping those together, that's alerting a lot of people. Like, wait, what's going on here? Why are those two things being lumped together? You could look at it from one of two ways, but for us, right? We look at it and think, well, they want to basically demonize it all and put it all together and have people dismiss it, and they've done a good job of that. But at the same time, a lot of people are coming to it for those exact same reasons. So they're damned if they do and damned if they don't.
Yeah, I used to do a podcast called Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, and we discussed all the stuff that you discuss. And Flat Earth popped in, got into my consciousness, and I ended the podcast. But I didn't want to bring Flat Earth up because I didn't want it to discredit all the other work I had done on the big events from the past without saying what they are. And then I realized, you can wake someone up to what I call the big three, which is the SH, the Boston thing, and the thing happened in New York City. And people can wake up to those three, and then they go back to work and they forget about it. But when you see the flat Earth, it's there every day. There's no escaping, and it changes who you are. And I felt that my job could be more effective because once you wake someone up to flat Earth, then all of a sudden they see everything else.
Right, other stuff.
Once the flat Earth opens your eyes to all the other doors.
The flat Earth is black belt levels conspiracy. You can't drop that on somebody on day one.
No, it's just more powerful than all of the other ones. They're like, you could see the 9/11 event and go, well, it was this, that, and they were doing this, but now we have a new government, a new president, and those people are gone, and baloney. Flat Earth affects every person, every single day, everywhere on Earth without exception. Okay? That's it. People in other countries, 9/11 didn't affect them like it affected us. Okay? Right. Flat Earth affects everybody every day. Period.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Charlie, I appreciate you coming on. We're almost at the 2-hour point, so we'll probably say goodbyes here shortly. But just tell everybody one more time where they can find you and how they can get a hold of your book and where you'll be speaking at coming up.
Yeah, you can get if you like the digital version, you can get that on my website, theoctopusofglobalcontrol.com. Just make a PayPal donation over $10 and I'll send it to you in EPUB format and also as a PDF. Physical book, Amazon, barnesandnoble.com. They've got them available there. Like I said, I'll be speaking at an Acapulco, and I've got a new video that's out with Sean Atwood that I just recorded today. That should be out. We talked about Epstein, and Tinfoil Hat, that should be out on Friday, and that is talking about climate change.
Oh boy, our ecosystems are dying.
Everybody's dying. We've got 12 years. Oh, I mean, another 12 years. I mean, another 12 years.
You've robbed me of my childhood.
Oh, boy. Yeah, you robbed me of my childhood. Get out of here.
Get out of town.
Nonsense.
I live on a coastal town. I've lived here my whole life, and I've been a fisherman and a windsurfer and a kite surfer. So I'm in the water all the time, and I know the rock walls and everything where the water comes up to. It hasn't changed in over 50 years. Not a friggin' inch. Nothing has changed. We've had a storm, but all of the permanent fixtures are the same distance from the water that they've always been. And the globalists say, well, that's because only certain parts of the ocean are rising.
How can that be?
That doesn't make any sense.
That doesn't make any sense. Only the
it makes a little sense on a ball.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
It makes a little sense on a ball.
Oh, yikes. Well, I don't know. It's all very this is very fascinating. I like this topic and I like you guys. I'm glad you guys had me on, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come in here and play devil's advocate here. Although I didn't really play it all that hard. I mean, it was pretty non-confrontational or anything. More than anything, I want to know more. I want to know more about everything, right? I want to get as much information as I can so I can make the best decision possible.
Without a shameless plug, download my app. Every day I put a new video in the featured video. It just shows up on the app in the corner, and you get a little notification saying what it's about. I do short videos during the week, mostly longer ones on the weekend. Just click it each day and watch one short video each day, and your life will be ruined forever.
Great. Just what I need. More hours on the internet researching things. Wonderful.
Well, you don't have to spend the time looking. I'm going to feed you one video a day.
That works.
Yeah.
I can do that. I can
And then
handle
we'll
that.
check back with you a year from now, and we'll see if you're full-blooded flat earther.
Was I'm checked into the nut house.
That way a little. Oh, there you go. Right.
There you go. I'm calling BS.
On the
Gotcha.
soda
That,
can.
and there it is. So I got a great
What's
one
the-
for tomorrow.
What's the app called again?
The Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. But if you just type in Flat Earth Clock, it's there, or Flat Earth, it comes right to the top.
Got it. I'm getting
Flat
it.
Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app.
Boom.
I'm getting it.
One
I'm
sale,
definitely
there
going to be put on some weird list for downloading
the
it, but I don't. I'm already on the list.
You're already
anyway.
on the list.
You wrote
believe me.
that book.
Your book is
You're
on
higher up on that list than I am.
Yeah, we're lower.
I'll be in the cell next to you at the FEMA camp.
That's fine.
It'll be all right. We'll be there with good people. So we'll be
Yeah,
that
of
bad,
course.
Right.
Love a party.
All right, Dave. Any final words, or have you plugged your app enough?
I'm plugging the truth, man.
Oh,
That's
the
it.
truth. I meant not the app. All right.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me on. I really do. It was a fun time.
All right.
Thanks,
it was fun.
Charlie.
Appreciate it, guys. All right. If anybody wants to support this channel to keep it going, of course, you can't do PayPal because I've been blocked from them, but you can do patreon.com/jeranism or Venmo at jeranism. Very easy ways to
Darren, you
donate.
got some super chats, by the way, from some people during the show.
Oh,
so,
I didn't even see it. I should
Yeah.
have it open. All right.
and Charlie, Google Mike Tyson Flat Earth. He just came out Flat Earth.
No.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't see it? It's on Mark Sargent's channel. He mirrored it. It's everywhere
you
now.
mean the other boxer, Carl Frosch?
Yeah. Well, maybe he actually. Mike brought up some good arguments. You know, he knows.
Mike Tyson.
Mike knows more than what he leads on.
For sure. It's
Probably.
that lisp that throws you off.
Yeah.
A little bit. All right, guys, it's been fun. Should I read the super chats? Were there any questions in there? I probably should bring it up.
There was a couple of comments. Go ahead, read them real quick.
Give me 2 seconds to bring it up because I got to bring it up. Dave, carry away for a second. It'll take me a second to bring these up.
So
All right, I got them up now. See,
I
that was that
think
quick.
we put the bug in your brain. Get the app, watch the video each day, and it, when you're driving or sitting, waiting for something in line, just watch it. Whatever.
I will. I will for sure.
Go ahead, Jaron.
All right, so we got Tim Drake said Shalom Goyams. That's nice. We got Liberty Repost 2 said, Jaron, did the Boris and Bertha video get a strike? I don't think so, but I'll have to look for it. And there should be a clip video up that you can see as well of that. I'll check that out, though. Commercial Sound and Video said YouTube is for cat videos and fixing cars. Let's find a better platform. Yeah, there's lots of other platforms out there. I don't know if any of them are taking off as much as we'd like to see. Dank said, shout out to Dearth. Thank you for that super chat. Linda Curtis said, great show, guys. And Chris Flat Earth Bear says, how many times did Hillary mention shattering the glass ceiling? Hashtag make America great again. Yeah, she kept saying that. She certainly did say that quite a few times.
Interesting.
Very
Someone will
interesting.
shatter that glass ceiling soon.
And it won't be NASA. So
No, it won't.
All right, it's been fun, guys. We'll talk to you again real soon. This has been Charlie Robinson, author of The Octopus of Global Control. Dearth, the author of the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. And Jaron from Jeranism. Till next time, do your own research, because when you do, you'll never again believe what you've been taught. Peace, guys.
Later.